Good evening. I am Kelly Porter. I'm the author of Perfectly Planned Memoir, this beautiful book right here, which is my story of overcoming several forms of abuse, starting from incest, child molestation, rape, being abandoned, and several other forms of abuse. And today, I am going to discuss some of the chapters with several women I have participating in this discussion. And I hope you guys are empowered. I hope you guys are inspired. And I hope you realize that abuse is something that we need to talk about. It's not something that needs to be pushed under the carpet. It needs to be dealt with on a daily basis. Kids need to be taught, what to expect. Adults, how not to deal with them. Kids need to be paid attention to today because this world is filled with pedophiles today. So with that being said, I'm going to introduce my first guest. This is Kenya Renee. Kenya Renee is a producer of plays and movies, and Kenya has read the book, and we're going to find out exactly how Perfectly Planned has either influenced or helped Kenya in any forms of way. So, Kenya, I'll start with the first question. After reading the book, did Perfectly Planned help you in any way? And if so, how?
Okay, I would first like to say I am so delighted and I am so grateful to be here today. Not only because you're my friend, and I'm so happy that you're my friend, but also because I read the book, and for me, it definitely hit home. When you first gave me the book, I was like, oh gosh, because I am not a reader I'm just not a reader for leisure purposes. But once you gave it to me, I knew I had to read it. And once I read it, it just inspired me to come clean about some things that happened in my life. 3 out of 4 women have been molested.
Absolutely.
And I am one of those women. Never has it been talked about before, so I am coming out for the first time.
Right
yes,
here.
Right
well, that
here.
is awesome. Let's praise God for that, really. Because here's the thing. This is your first time speaking about it, but I know you're very well-rounded. You're a happy person. You're very productive. And so a lot of women that do not discuss these issues and they kind of suppress it, they tend to have dysfunctionalities in certain areas of their life, whether it be relationships with men or, at the workplace. So since this is I just want to elaborate just a little bit, since this is your first time discussing these things and this book has given you the courage to come out, has it made you feel better? Has the book actually made you feel better about, now you being able to talk about it, and then maybe you can share it with somebody else, and maybe you can even share it with some of the teenagers that you may come in contact with?
Oh yes, it has definitely made me feel better. It lets me know that, of course, I am not the only one suffering, or who has suffered in her life. And it's definitely harsh when you have been molested by a family member. And it definitely gives me courage that I can be open about what has happened in my past. And although I may be judged, I've learned this just by reading a book, because you have to have courage to even write this, to not even be judged from what has happened to you. So it just encouraged me to not be judged, and that I can be free and open as to what has happened to me in my life. And it's not something that I did personally, and I just want to save one young girl.
Absolutely. So overall, you would say Perfectly Planned has been a positive impact in your life?
Oh, for sure.
Well, that is a wonderful thing. And so with that being said, so chapters. Tell me which chapter may have influenced you the most. And when I say influence, I'm basically saying the chapter that made you maybe look inside, or maybe taught you something, the one that really sticks in your head or stands out.
I would definitely have to say Chester the Molester. That chapter really stood out to me, not because I could personally relate to it, because I couldn't, but because I am a high school teacher. I see so many teen girls, and I'm just looking right through them, and I'm just imagining that some of them may be going through the same predicament. In that chapter, you do speak about you being in high school. And although you may have been getting good grades, there was certain things that was going on at home that was kind of affecting you, while in school. And so I would for sure have to say Chester the Molester. And also, that chapter touches on some things that your parents
should know.
know should have done.
Mm-hmm.
And although in that chapter I may have been looking at them like, oh my God, come on, be there for your daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely thinking that teenagers need to read the chapter, because so many teenagers are probably resenting their parents.
Absolutely. I mean, you're already, as a teenager, you're already in that rebellious stage. And here's the thing I want parents to understand. First off, in the state of Illinois, consensual sex is 17 years old. So therefore, when an adult has sex with someone under 17, that is considered statutory rape and or child molestation. So when you decide to call your child fast, or she wanted it, or she's being hard-headed, no, she is being manipulated by someone who is much older, much wiser, and has a plan for her. And that plan is to molest her. So I urge parents, if you have a teenager, listen, don't just, argue back or talk at your child. Listen to your children, your teenagers, because they're most vulnerable. And some parents look at them and say, they're 16, they're 17, they can take care of themselves. So you leave them home a lot. That is the most critical point in their lives. That is a time where it's an identity crisis. A lot of teenagers commit suicide because they're trying to find themselves, they're trying to fit in, they don't know who they are. So this is the most critical time in their life. So I really, really urge the parents, when your child becomes a teenager and enters into the high school, you make sure daily you're asking that child, how was their day? What's up with your homework? Did you meet any new friends? Did anyone make you feel good about it? The teenager needs the social structure and the social support, not only from her peers, but they need it from the parents. So when a child or teenager goes home and they're not getting that, you are opening the doors for anyone to come in and steal your child away from you. So I urge the parents, pay attention to your teenagers.
And I want to piggyback off that word fast.
Mm-hmm.
I am really encouraging our moms to stop calling your daughters fast, your nieces fast, your little cousins fast, that girl across the street fast, because that book, Perfectly Planned, also taught me that family members are the first ones to criticize someone in the family.
Mm-hmm.
She's fast, she'll never gonna be nothing, she's gonna be a whore, you hear it all just
time.
like what's in Perfectly Planned.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, why? You calling a 9-year-old that?
Mm-hmm.
Have you even checked to see what's going on in her life that's making her act this way?
Absolutely. And the thing is ignorance. Even I look back, and during that time, incest was not a word that was ever brought up. Mm-hmm. Child molestation, alcohol and drugs were never discussed in the home. So when you hear parents blaming the children, it's only one of two reasons. They're either ignorant and the lack of knowledge about child molestation, or they're in denial. Because there are some parents that know what's going on, instead of stepping back and trying to help the child, they perceive the child as being fast, as you said, or wanting something to happen. So they're also shifting the blame onto the child, as the predator does. That's not your job. Your job as a parent is to get rid of this pedophile and embrace your child. Because when you blame them, you've just pushed them further away from you. So now this child is being subjected to more abuse later in their life. Because I'm going to tell you, when a teenager or child is being abused, that is very, very detrimental to their psyche. That can lead to suicide, promiscuity, drug and alcohol abuse, prostitution. This one occurrence can lead to so many catastrophic events that will occur in a child's life. So do not blame your child. I don't care if it was your boyfriend. Maybe he was someone you was in love with, and maybe he decided to ease in your child's bedroom and you blamed her. That's the wrong way to go. So again, it's never the child's fault. So after reading Perfectly Planned, and you now understand my experiences, do you believe if I were to speak at schools, prisons, congregations, do you think this story, my story, will be a positive impact on the audiences of these particular organizations?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Even when you look at some adult women, when you see the way that we carry ourselves as women, sometimes, and that's why I love producing plays of quality. You know, my first play was The Cycle. We talked about molestation and how, you know, we realized how it affected us as adult women, you know. So definitely when you hear someone else's story, especially your story, so many women can take that into account as to why they act a certain way.
Absolutely.
Why, you know, their mothers acted a certain way. Maybe because their mothers were molested. So maybe they jump from man to man to man to man and never resolved that issue. You know, or maybe they realize the reason why they've been hating their parent for so long, you know, and that they need to release that resentment.
That's right.
So I definitely, not only do I believe that you need to speak to teenagers,
But also women.
Also women, you have to get to them, and then definitely speak at the ministries, because I think that, you know, it's masses there at ministries, and certain things are just swept under the rug. But when you're talking about forgiveness, you have to bring certain things out in order to even
Before you even make it there.
So yes, I for sure
Yes,
hope
absolutely. And I do really agree with the speaking for the grown women. Teenagers will be great, absolutely, because you want to prevent, you want to stop them from traveling down the road that a victim of abuse would travel. Now with the adults, the grown-ups, that's absolutely true. You look at how they carry themselves. And sometimes I can actually tell from the first few words that comes out of a woman's mouth if she's been abused or not. Because there are certain characteristics. There are certain personality traits of a woman that's been abused. And I mean literally abused. And I don't want to minimize it, but there are some forms of abuse, maybe emotional, maybe you went through one situation that wasn't too harmful to the soul. You know what I mean? But the women that has really been abused, there are certain characteristic traits, there are certain personalities, there are certain behaviors. And it's uniform. They all exhibit. And so a lot of us, when I'm on Facebook sometimes, I talk about some of the women that are 40 and over, and I don't understand the whole hypersexuality thing. Because at some point, you have to learn to love yourself. And with learning to love yourself, you have to deal with issues that you may have had to experience, because those are the issues that you're going to grow from. You're going to mature from. You're going to learn to love yourself from. And when we don't go back, whether it was a relationship with a boyfriend, maybe that was the first relationship that you've ever experienced any abuse in, and maybe you didn't forgive him, and now you're on this path of hating yourself. You have to go back. You have to go back, and you have to deal with these issues, learn from them. Remove the blame. We know whose fault it is, but we have to be accountable as well. So I would absolutely say yes to the women. I know you're a high school teacher as well, so you feel free to let me know, and I'll be glad to come on down and speak share my life, and because my goal is to empower, and my passion is to inspire.
Now, at what point in your life when those layers began to fall off of you?
Those layers of all those guilty and negative feelings?
So how have you seen yourself grow into who you are right now?
Oh, wow.
Kelly Porter with the completed book, Perfectly Planned.
The layers began to fall off when I reconnected with God, honestly. I did therapy, and therapy was the who, the what, the when, the where, the how. That was the basis of what child molestation is, to understand it. But church and God and praying, and allowing him in, opening my heart, that love that I received from him, that love I felt, was like no other love. It was almost like I was reborn. And the situation was the spirit, lives within us. It manifested. That was the most powerful experience I've ever had. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for joining me again. This is Kelly Porter, the author of Perfectly Planned Memoir, book of My Life of Abuse, overcoming all the forms of abuse. And again, I have Kenya Renee here. She is a producer of movies and plays. We're going to be wrapping things up, but I do have one last question for Kenya. One last question. Do you think I have the ability to inspire women, motivate teens, victims of abuse? And if so, just tell me how. You've read the book. You've read it from front to back. You understand my experiences. Give me some examples of how you think I can motivate and inspire women to the level I'm at today?
I think you should definitely expound, when it comes to women, expound on the forgiveness aspect of molestation,
Okay.
so that they can progress in life.
Okay.
By reading this book, I now understand how important it is to just forgive, period.
Absolutely.
And how we cannot judge,
Mhm.
forgive our parents,
Mhm.
although we may have felt that they may have failed us. So I definitely think that you should expound on the forgiveness portion for women, and for teens, just expound on just loving yourself enough to know what is going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much, Kenya, for coming. I appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule and having this discussion with us. And again, so you are going to be producing plays and movies. So just quick few seconds, just, tell the camera what you like. You got a movie coming out, right?
Yes,
Deacon's
I
Choice.
do.
Deacon's
Yes,
Choice.
I
Go ahead,
do.
give a
We
little
definitely
information
want
about
you
that.
in it too. Yeah, so we definitely want you to come on out and support the movie Deacon's Choice. You can also visit us on the web at www.deaconschoice.com to learn more about the movie. This movie is about breaking cycles of addiction and affluent Americans, affluent women, and as well as African American teen girls and women. So we definitely want you guys to break the cycle of addiction.
All right. Thank you so much, Kenya. I'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you
a
so
good
much.
one.